recently purchased an Ikawa. It's actually the 100 gram roaster. We've got the 50 gram. And in the past, the samples that he will be roasting on the farm were roasted on a more traditional drum sample roaster in the background over there. But the Ikawa is fantastic because it allows you to really play with your profiles, and there's repeatability as well. And as you were explaining earlier, Alejo, you've got lots of customers who roast on Ikawa. Yeah. So when they come to your farm, they can actually roast some of their own coffees according to their profiles and taste the coffees here as they would back at home. So I know that Patrick Roll's going to be visiting you next week, and he's going to be doing some work with you on the Ikawa.
I still need I need to learn a lot about the Ikawa, but for me I think it's interesting that we can share profiles together.
Absolutely.
And that I can, maybe you can tell me what's the best way to try our coffees based on your experience.
Absolutely. So I've developed a very simple profile over time, which is based originally on the Tim Wendelboe. It's one of Tim Wendelboe's profiles on the Ikawa app. So when I first bought my machine, I downloaded that profile, and I've just tweaked it over time. And there's certain trends that we find with our coffees, and when you're sampling a wide variety of coffees from one producer, or different coffees, or a wide variety of coffees from different producers, you want to start with a similar starting point and then adjust from there. So we're going to try roast a batch of coffee now on the 100 gram roaster with a profile from our 50 gram roaster and see what happens.
We have a really nice background noise.
So this means that the mill's about to explode.
Yeah, exactly.
So back at home, whenever we talk about fire in the roastery, one of my staff, I think it was my first ever staff member, I said to him as I left the room when the roaster was running, I said to him, "Miguel, do you remember what to do if there's a fire?" And he said, "Yes, grab the marshmallows."
That makes sense.
That makes sense, yeah.
So you preheat. You already sent the profile here?
I've sent the profile.
Okay, perfect.
What are we roasting?
So this is a Typica Volcan Azul. I have never tried this coffee.
Amazing.
From this harvest, of course. So it's one of the coffees we're going to cup tomorrow, but I just want to move ahead and try it because it's a very interesting variety. Very tasty mucilage.
Yeah.
So we hope we did a good job transferring those flavors to the cup.
Amazing. I know, Fani, if you're watching this is one of your favorites.
If you smell the green beans, you might have some of those flavors from
great memories
from the trees.
Yes, absolutely. So we tasted fruit from these trees. I'm not sure if it's the same block, but it's
exactly the same
block. Okay. Yeah. So Fani actually won the semi-final round of the South African Barista Champs with this coffee. And then we ran out of Volcan Azul coffee before the final. Approach with this profile is to listen to crack, and then depending on the processing method, I tend to apply a very similar amount of time after crack. So if it's
one of their birthdays to the party, and it was like the center of attention of the party.
That's amazing. So we've got a good rolling crack already. Even the 100 gram batch size compared to the 50 develops a much nicer sounding crack.
Yeah.
The 50 gram, it's like pop.
Yeah, you have to get closer.
Yeah. So what I'm watching now is my development time. Given that is an anaerobic natural, we'll take it to about a minute after crack. And I don't really want to finish higher than about 207 degrees. So let's see how we go. For most Ikawa profiles, 207 degrees sounds very high, but for me it's kind of normal.
So 1 minute of development.
Yeah. So if it was a washed coffee, I'd go a bit longer, like 1 minute 10, sometimes 1 minute 15. But the one thing the Ikawa is very good for is that we get to develop a lot of data around coffees before we put them into the bigger roaster. And although you can't really translate what's happening on the curves from the Ikawa to the big roaster, I can take certain lessons with me. So a very simple example would be our Immaculados had a very late crack, very high end temperature in the Ikawa compared to some other coffees. So I knew going into the big machine to expect a late crack, and to finish higher than normal. And then I've got a geisha from Pepe in Ecuador at the moment where the end temperature is about 5 degrees lower than the Sudaname. And the geisha is very dense, so you would expect it to have a...
So you can do a correlation of different coffees. Of course, times and temperatures will be different in the big machines.
Absolutely.
But you can
learn a few lessons along the way. And I think that's something that, you know, I think that over time we'll have a lot more like scientific data to help us as roasters to transfer information from one machine to another. But at the moment, all we can do is notice trends. So I just keep a very simple spreadsheet of crack times, end temperatures, time after crack, and then also just notes around development and flavor.
they work very differently. The roasters is your roaster. It's an air roast.
No, it's a drum machine. Yeah. Cool, so we just roasted the Typica Volcan Azul on Alejo's 100 gram Ikawa. And yeah, the profile that I use on my 50 gram, the big change that we had to make very quickly was that the fan speed in the beginning of the profile wasn't high enough to actually turn the coffee for the first few seconds, but we managed to get them turning pretty quickly. So we're gonna actually brew the coffee now, literally 2 minutes after roasting it, and see how it tastes. This is the beauty of the Ikawa. We can now go back to that profile, which is now saved. We can make an adjustment to the fan speed and start the next batch at the fan speed that we want, and get better results. So we'll let you know how it tastes.
A smaller batch of
Perfect.
20 grams, 300 grams of water.
You need to get access to filters and that type of thing for your brewers, like Kelly's filter.
You can buy them here, but they
taste pretty good straight away.
And after some time, they lose quicker.
Later and later and later now. So it's tasting amazing.
How many months?
18 months in the freezer.
So
it's pretty amazing.
You've frozen.
But it's a medical grade freezer, so it holds pretty stable at -20.
Yeah, that's.
I think brewed coffee, it seems to be better to cool it faster.
Yeah.
If we have a lower density coffee, we can do that a lot. Otherwise, it's just like the roast was maybe too fast. On the end temperature slightly, so I'd finish it maybe like 205.
Well, we'll see how it goes.
It's improving as it cools down.
But we had some overripe cherries because we left the cherries for longer on the tree to have a higher bricks content.
Okay.
So we had some cherries that were really ripe and some a little bit overripe, already getting drier. So at the beginning we did a dry fermentation.
Okay.
Then after.
Is that like a natural on the patio?
No, it's just inside the tanks.
Okay.
But after a few days, we added water to the fermentation because we wanted to stabilize the humidity in all the beans.
Okay.
So they will all be wet, and when we start the drying process, they will have the same humidity. Because
really
we had
interesting.
different, some of them they were drier, some of the cherries. So
That's really interesting.
That's why I did that, to try to make it more homogeneous, the humidity of all the beans.
And was that a warm anaerobic or in the shade?
Warm anaerobic.
Okay. That's really interesting. And how long were they in the tanks?
So dry was like 5 days, and
Okay.
then a couple of days with water.
And you said yesterday, if I remember correctly, that the peak temperature is around 25 degrees?
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay.
Inside those are in direct contact with sunlight, so yeah, they get a little bit warmer than our forest shade anaerobic.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So I've tasted a few warm anaerobics so far from Volcan Azul, and this is really clean.
Yeah, I think it's a really controlled process, because inside the tanks, with the lack of oxygen, you don't get high temperatures. So and here at the farm, during the harvest season, we don't have very high temperatures. The highest, well, now it's a little bit warmer because we are approaching March. We're now in the middle of March.
Okay.
So, but in January, December, during the night it goes down to 10 degrees Celsius, and during the day it's maximum 20 degrees, 22 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
That's why we don't have high temperatures inside the tanks.
Yeah, yeah. That's amazing. So everything just happens a little bit more slowly at lower temperatures, more controlled.
What
Yeah.
more?
I'd love to say